welcome to Financial Confidence on WYTV7 Christian Broadcasters Network. I'm your host, Lynn Demmons, and we appreciate you and thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. But before we get to our special guest in the podcasting studios, let me remind you of our guiding principle for the show, which is Matthew 6:33. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Yes, guys, we seek God first, and all of these other things will come to us. But we also have to do what? That's pray over our finances. So if you will, commit this simple prayer to memory and pray over your finances on a regular basis. You'll do what you're called to do. That's to build generational wealth and to leave an inheritance for our children's children. So if you will, just bow with me for one moment. Lord, help us to value the things in this world that are really valuable. That's our relationship with you, our lives, and our families. Help make us responsible stewards of your financial resources, and let us trust your holy word, the eternal glory in our son Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen. So guys, we are super excited that you're able to join us for these true confessions and conversations. You know, we've been having a lot of true confessions and conversations over here at Financial Confidence. We also want to say, guys, not only is this entertainment, but this is education for you. So if this information is informative, go over to WYTV7.org, leave a donation so we can do what we're called to do. That's to enhance the kingdom. We're helping you do what? Make your money, keep your money, and grow your money so you can do what you're called to do. That's to build generational wealth and leave an inheritance for your children's children. All right, guys, I'm super excited to have in the podcasting studio with us today, Miss Michelle Alexander of AJM Financial. Michelle, how are you?
I am awesome. How are you, Lynn?
Oh, I'm so super excited to have you in, to have this true confession and conversation with us today. That's what we do over here at Financial Confidence. So just to get us started, get the ball rolling, I wanted to ask you, what was your money relationship or your relationship with money in the early years when you were growing up?
Wow. For me, it's growing up in a single family home, my single mom and myself. And so she worked. So my relationship to money is watching her work and, you know, pay bills and make things happen with, you know, a modest salary. So when I look back on that, I remember saying sometimes money does not grow on trees. So that is my tagline for my business, helping you plant your money tree, because money does not grow on trees. It's really what you do with what you make, and that's how you make plans. So my relationship with money from that early years is, you know, to do well with what you have and to, you know, just plan things out. So we have our separate ways on doing that. You know, I say from my mom, but, you know, I've learned from seeing some of the things that went on in her life to do things this way. So now I'm ready to teach everyone that you do not have to live paycheck to paycheck.
All right, I love it. I love it, guys. She says she's helping you to plant your money tree. We all heard it when we were kids. Money doesn't grow on trees. You know you heard it. If you didn't, I don't know what was going on, right? But with that said, I wanted to ask you to think back with me for a moment to that first job, your first job. I know my first job was working at McDonald's. What was your first job and what did you do with that first paycheck?
Oh my gosh, this story is so, it's special to me for a few reasons. One is I had an opportunity to write for the Atlanta Voice newspaper that comes out weekly. And that was my very first article, was talking about that first job, that first paycheck at 17 that I actually got a paycheck with my name on it. And it was $9 a week. I was a day camp counselor, I was a senior counselor, and that was my very first. I made sure that I managed that little $90 because my mom said you can't live any place for free, so I had to give $10 off the top for house money. So that was the first thing. So that left me $80. And then what I did with that was I made sure I went to the train station and I got tokens so that I can get back to that job for the rest of the week until I got that next paycheck.
All right, guys. Looks like we lost Michelle, but that's okay. We'll keep the conversation going. She's sharing her money story with us over here at WYTV7 Christian Broadcasters. All right, Miss Michelle, we heard you getting those tokens so you can get back and forth to that job.
To this job. Yes, absolutely. You know, most 17-year-olds, they would not be thinking about that. They'd be buying clothes and shoes and whatever the new thing was out at that time. I will not say what year that was, but you can tell by tokens it was a long time ago because now there's cards. But at the same time, I did not do all of that. And I also took out lunch money for the rest of the week. It was very inexpensive at that time to buy the little lunch money. I had everything together. So then I was able to take care of some. I actually fixed the room that I lived in at my mom's house. I was able to get a new paint, new flooring, and all of that. And this is at 17. That's my first paycheck.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so I said McDonald's was my first paycheck, but my real first job was kind of under the table. Miss Carol, she's no longer living, so I guess it's okay for me to say this now. Miss Carol let me work in her daycare. I was 12 years old.
Awesome.
She let me work in the daycare to help out with the little one. My little brother was there. It was one of those things that I will always remember. I didn't get to spend my money. My mom was always save, save, save. So I can definitely appreciate that fact that you had to pay those, what do you say, $10 to the house fund. Yes,
absolutely.
I know. It was a requirement in our house. You had to contribute to the house fund, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, yes. All right, good stuff.
That's your first experience. That's your first experience in paying rent.
Exactly, exactly. So y'all hear that? Parents out there, you're not charging your kids rent. Go ahead and do that. They have a job. Go ahead and help them out. You're helping them to build a skill that they are going to need moving forward. So it's absolutely nothing wrong. Yeah, you heard it first here at Financial Confidence. It's absolutely nothing wrong with charging your kids rent. If they working, yes, they can help pay some of those bills. That's all we're saying, y'all.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, and thinking along this line, as I mentioned earlier, I love your tagline, helping you plant your money tree. So how did you get started as a financial literacy educator?
I got started probably around that same time because that was the beginning of everything. When I look back on my story, that's really where it began. But years later, you know, life happens, so you move on, you do different things, and I really wanted to be a teacher. And again, life happens, so this is something that I picked that I really enjoy teaching, and I feel like I can help people and motivate them to live that way, to live that lifestyle. But one of the first conversations I had some years later was with my aunt. We were on the phone, just talking, chatting away, and I'm talking about these things, and you know, I'm telling her these things that you can do and how you should live your life. And I know I was really listening and paying attention, just attention. Some months later, whenever it was, we were on the phone. She said, "Guess what?" I said, "What?" She said, "I'm gonna get my dining room set. I'm gonna make the last payment was on layaway." And that's how she got her dining room set. So she had no bill. The furniture was hers when it was delivered. She didn't have to worry about it being on credit or on time, or if someone could come and take it if she doesn't make a payment. You know, she said, "I listened to you and I took your advice." Can you imagine how this 20-something or maybe even 30-something-year-old person felt listening to their aunt tell them that?
Right.
So it was very powerful hearing that. So from there, I just started going back to school, getting degrees, and you know, honing skills on oral presentations, and you know, just started getting out there, and even moving here to Georgia, and then going back to school for some more finance information and training, and then just started getting out here and presenting at libraries, at churches, and things like that to spread that message that you can afford things even if you can't pay for them outright. That doesn't mean you go spend credit on it and never pay for it. That means you plan to pay for the things that you want in your life, even though you can't pay the $1,000 today. You can pay the $1,000 over time, but do it as a plan. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to buy this $1,000 piece and you have no way to pay for it. And then if you lose your job or something happens or there's something that breaks in your home that you have to replace, or especially you're driving in Georgia, you're in a car, anything can happen.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So there's the plan. And if you follow that plan, you'll be able to make it.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that part about credit card, because there was a report that was released today that talks about the fact that U.S. credit card debt closed 2018 at an all-time high, $870 billion, y'all. Yes, billion with a B, an all-time high. It's even higher than it was after 2008, when there was an economic downturn. We all remember that, right? That wasn't too, 10 years ago, 11 years ago now. But guys, there are some things that we definitely need to be aware of as we talk about planning and getting ready to plant your money tree, right? Plant your money tree so that you can water it and nourish it in the right way, right? With your plant.
Absolutely.
So you talked about the fact that your aunt came to you and you were excited that she took your, she took your advice and she ran with it. But oftentimes people are reluctant to talk about their finances. They're reluctant to talk to financial educators or advisors of any sort. Why do you think that people are reluctant to have that, like we're talking now, this true confession and conversation about our finances?
Shame, embarrassment. This society is very visual and everyone's trying to top the other one. You do not want people to know that you're having a hard time. You want everyone to think that everything's great and you can afford this because somehow you have come up in some kind of way. I don't live my life that way. I don't have to prove anything to anybody that's not contributing to the bottom line.
Okay.
So
you don't sign her paycheck. Okay.
At all. I don't have anything to prove to you. So, I'm going to use today's example of social media. I'm out there, I post certain things of try to be a positive information, but not, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm there. And what I'm doing, that all sounds great. And then next week you're asking me to borrow money to pay your light bill. Okay. That's not happening.
Right.
So people don't want to talk about the things that are going on bad in their life because we're taught to keep our private business in the house. You don't air your dirty laundry. You don't this, that, and the other. You heard all the different sayings. So we internalize that as children. And when you grow up and you see your mom and the other women, they do that in their life. So we don't want to talk about that. The woman can be sitting next to you. She looks great. She has on nice jewelry, nice clothes, nice shoes, nice nails, nice hair. But she's $60,000 in debt. Right. But she's sitting next to you at this expensive event. Maybe you paid for. We don't know how that person got there. Mm-hmm. So you're not willing to talk about that. And I believe it comes from that inner, the guilt, the shame. I'm not doing as well as I'm pretending to people. And, image. I had a conversation earlier today with someone about that. We were talking about image. A lot of people want to keep up image. And that's where we tend to fall. I want everyone to know, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes if you just say something,
right,
it may be to a stranger on the train, a stranger as you're passing by, you may be standing in line for whatever, and you may happen to strike up a conversation with someone. My friends say that about me all the time. I just talk to anybody. So, you have this conversation, and you never know what information they can impart to you. Now that you release some of that weight from you, now you feel like you can talk to somebody. Just say something because things may come to you that way. Don't worry about the shame or guilt, because do you want to have the shame or guilt hold you down from being in debt all of your life, and opposed to saying, let me ask for help and now I could. You just had a prayer before we started. People will pray for that and they say, I want help, I want help, I want help. And the help comes, they still shy away because they're in shame, or they're afraid, or they're still trying to keep up an image. Those things are not important. At the end of the day, you want to be able to fix your car if it breaks down on 285.
Oh, yes, you do. You don't want your car to break down on 285, but if it happens to, right, be able to fix that.
Yes, my car broke down on someone else's driveway.
Right.
But I was able to do what I needed to do. And everyone's like, oh, you should just get a new car. You know what? A new car is higher insurance. Now I have a payment. This car's already paid for. You start looking at those things. You're like, hey, I kept the car for 16 years. And I told you the story in the workshop that I did. It took a minute, but I was determined to make sure I can pay off this car and pay off this and pay off student loans, because I don't want that debt dragging me down, because I know one thing, retirement is real.
Yes, it is.
We all have to get there. If you're living, you're going to retire one day. What do you do then when there's no overtime? There's not going to be an increase for a few years. Not Medicare, Social Security did not have an increase. And when you do get an increase, what is it? 1%? What is that going to do?
Right.
Against inflation?
Absolutely nothing. You're still negative, right? In many cases.
Yes, negative equity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in thinking along those lines, because you brought out some great points there. And I think the challenging part is, as you said, many people are trying to keep up appearances. Many people they're ashamed of the situations that they're in, not knowing and understanding that it's just one simple change, one simple thing that you can tweak that can really drastically change the way that your finances can grow, right? We're growing.
Absolutely.
We now move to that next level. That one little simple switch, change, or trigger, or tweak can actually move you to your next level. So, in thinking about that, then, what are some of the steps to financial freedom that listeners can take today that'll help to move them in that direction?
You know, it's the simple things. Most people think you need to make this big step and this big change. It's almost like a baby. Babies take little steps, and then they take little crawls, and then they crawl faster. And then all of a sudden they start to get up, and then they take one little step, and the next thing you know, they're walking, and then they're running. We need to be able to do the same thing. So I always tell people, start with something small that you know you can handle. And that means maybe you stop buying lunch out.
Mm-hmm.
You stop buying breakfast and lunch out, because most people don't cook at home today. They're definitely not cooking breakfast. Who has time? You're not going to cook. If you're not cooking dinner, you don't have any lunch to take. So you eat out. And then when you go home, you may stop at the store to pick up something to eat. So where have you cooked today?
Right.
If you go to, let's just use something healthy. People say, well, healthy out, that's fine. Chipotle is a great place to eat. Food is good. I like Chipotle, but when you leave there as a single person, you're spending at least $8. If you eat there 3 times a week, is that $24? Well, you add up $24 times how many weeks for a week? That's a bill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it may be a light bill, it may be gas for your car, it may be something, but it's something simple. So I tell people to start small. You can change those things. I'm not saying you have to live that way forever, but once you start, you probably won't want to go back, because when you see the money that you save, it will start to matter to you. And then even if you say, well, I'm paying my bills, I'm not in this particular situation, blah, blah, blah. But if you're not saving anything that you have extra, and you're not saving for the future, then you're still in the same place you'll always be. So something as small as, again, taking your lunch, cap your trip. Some people ride all over the town on the weekend without planning their trips out. Start at point A, end up at point C, so you can get back to point A. So you're not zigzagging all over the place and spending up gas. So now you have to fill your tank twice in a week, and maybe instead of once in a week. If you live 30 miles or 10 miles or whatever it is miles from your job, you're spending a good, $40 to fill up your tank. And that's probably if you have just a mid-sized car. We're not even talking about an SUV, a crossover, or anything like that. That's those things, when you start adding those amounts up, you get into the hundreds of dollars. That's where you're throwing money away and you don't even see it. Because some people do make a decent amount of money, but what they do is they're like, I don't see where I have this extra. I was working with someone, and when you subtracted their expenses from their income, they had like $600 left, but they couldn't see it because you're not spending right. You're not managing your money right. You're not even looking at what you're swiping or even spending for you not to know that you have that much extra. So I tell people to start, take your money. If you have to do this, when you get a paycheck, most of us have direct deposit. Even if you have to do this one time just to see, get that whole paycheck out, get it in cash, and sit down like the old folks used to do at the kitchen table and divide that money up. I bet you might have seen that on a few episodes of Good Times. Divide that money up into what you have to pay out, and you will see exactly what you have left. And because we're visual people, and when you see it that way, it starts to sink in. I really do have this. So what am I doing wrong? Most people are paying their bills, and whatever's left over, they're not accounting for. That discretionary income makes a big difference in your life. You have to manage it. Don't just use it because it's there. Use it to repay debt. Use it to build wealth. Use it to be able to plan for purchases. So if you want to get a new entertainment system, why charge it? You can charge it, but then when the bill comes, you already have the money because it's saved up. So now you pay no interest for this item.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing you say is, guys, you need to prioritize those.
Absolutely.
Priorities are what are going to keep you on track, essentially, is what I'm hearing her share. And I'm sure there are things that all of us can do. I know I'm guilty myself. There's sometimes I can get in the car and I'll, have in my mind, okay, I am going to this place, and then something else pops up. Oh, I need to go here as well. Yeah. So immediately then I go to that location. What didn't plan it out initially, however, there was gas. There's now food because I'm out longer than I had planned to be out, and I'm hungry.
Yes.
And the sister so all of these things start to pile up that we did not plan for. So I definitely, yes, guys, I say ditto to those comments. Make sure that you're prioritizing every aspect of that. And I love the idea you reach back to the Good Times episode, sitting there with the money on the table, going through and checking through those bills. Do that. Even if it's not your time for your paycheck, get that Monopoly money out of your baby's game. You know you have it upstairs somewhere. Nobody's playing with that game anymore. Get that Monopoly money out. Go through that process with your bills and figure that thing out so you can find those discretionary funds. So, Michelle.
That is hilarious, Lynn. I was saying that is hilarious because that's exactly what I was going to do with this person. I said, you don't have to use your real money, but we all have some type of game in our house that has play money in it, or whatever type of money, and do that same exercise. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. So I wanted you to also share, and I knew that I didn't mention this to you earlier, but you mentioned something about a game that you've created to help others with their finances that you also, I think you've used it with children. You mind sharing a little bit of that with us?
Oh, that game. And I didn't create it. I forget the name of the company who has that, but it's called the allowance game. It's the allowance game. I love it because what I did was, preparing to work with children. I said, let me try it out. My neighbor's grandkids were over, and, I went to her house and we were playing with the two kids. And the goal of the game is the first person to save $20 wins. So the board game is almost kind of reminds you of Monopoly. They all kind of come out that way somewhere. If you pass the main home square, I think you are either receive $2 as your paycheck, or your allowance, as they call it. But then as you roll the dice, you go around the board. There's different things on the board. So if you land on something, you can buy the lemonade stand if you land on that one. And anyone who lands on that, they pay you 50 cents. You can also earn income for babysitting. You can also lose income. If you forget to return a book to the library, there's an overdue book fee. Or you can lose, you lost some money. Every square has something on it for that child to go through. So they get to learn some real things that happen because those things are real. I'm not sure how libraries work today because everything is electronic. So you may not have that overdue fee anymore, but that's how it was back in the day.
No,
so on this board, it still has that.
You still have an overdue fee. You just have to put your credit card into the machine now. They no longer have the librarian that you go to. Everything's electronic. It's just like the ATM machine. You go swipe your credit card and you pay your overdue fee. Ask me how I know.
Well, I know you have a son, so I can imagine that, you go through that because, he's at the age where the library thing is still going on. So, yes, all of those things are on the board where you go through that. So one of the squares says, you found 50 cents, or you found $1, or, you purchased something and you have to pay for it. So those are real things, because even if you have $10 for an allowance, how do you manage that to your next $10? You can't walk in the store and want to buy everything. See, now, not just now, a lot of parents will do this. They'll give you an allowance, and today they'll buy it for you anyway because.
Yes, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to WYTV7. We're having this true confession and conversation with our special guest, Miss Michelle Alexander. So yes, sometimes the parents will do that. That child will have that allowance, and more than likely, the baby doesn't have enough money, and mommy comes in and makes up the difference. What lesson are you teaching the little ones, right?
Absolutely. At that point, let them understand that this item costs this much. This is how much you have. This is what you can do to get to this point. What do you want to do? So I've heard people do different things with their kids. Some people, they write up a whole plan of chart of chores that are around the house that their child can do to earn money on. This way, you don't have to pay somebody to do that. Let them earn that and keep the money in the family like other companies do. They hire their family members. You can hire yours. They can set the table. They can wash the dishes. They can do something so simple that it's enough to pay them something that's something you don't have to do. Now, there's some things they may be doing already anyway, and you don't pay them for it, but make that game out of it if you can. Some people, I understand, may not have that opportunity to pass that extra dollar on.
Yes.
You can still teach them in other ways.
Absolutely. Well, Michelle, it has definitely been a pleasure having you here. Any last words before we close out the show today?
I want to say just stick to, have a plan, create a plan and create a budget. A lot of people don't like to create budgets because they feel that they're restrictive, but that's your lifeline. It really tells you where your money should be going and not where you think it should go, or you don't know where it went. Sit down. It's very simple to write down what you bring home every month, and then just add up everything that you have to pay out. And I mean, include yourself in that budget as an allowance. So when you drill down all of your paycheck to a zero amount, it's called a zero-based budget, you get to see where every penny of your paycheck goes. Once you do that, you can adjust and make changes as needed, or you may see there's a deficit. That decision may be, I may need to get a second job to help fill this in, or let me go into a career that I can make more money.
Yes, absolutely. Guys, thank you for joining us for this episode. It was back to the basics today. So make sure we get back to the basics and get that plan in place. Miss Michelle, how can our listeners reach you?
You can reach me at my website at www.ajmfinancial.com. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn at ajmfinancial.com as well. And you can also reach me directly by phone, 678-310-3064, or you can contact me at ajmfinancial@earthlink.net.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Lynn.
Guys, thank you for tuning in to WYTV7 Christian Broadcasters Network. I'm your host, Lynn Demmons, America's #1 financial rebound coach. Yeah, I said it, America's #1. We're helping you to make your money, keep your money, and grow your money so you can do what you're called to do. That's to build generational wealth and leave an inheritance for those children. Yes, guys. Well, we thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week at the same time on Thursday at 6 p.m. Don't forget, head on over to WYTV7.org, leave a donation so that you can help us do what we're called to do. That's to enhance the kingdom. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Run like a